I've been eating gas station hard-boiled eggs out of a bag lately.
I can't. How come you can make me like literally like I can't even.
I think
No. There's no excuse for that lifestyle.
They're not good. They have no flavor.
Yeah, and they're rubbery and slimy.
Yeah, and
why would you want to eat that?
The package they come in has like water at the bottom.
Can't.
And I'm like, what is this egg water?
Stop it.
And I'll get it at Racetrack, only Racetrack. So, and you get 2 in a bag.
I know what you're talking about. I can't with you.
And I grabbed the ones from the back because they're the fresher ones because they're trying to sell they're trying to sell the old ones.
You could get in the fresh ones. Okay.
So, I eat 2 of those, just one pack, but it comes with 2 eggs with a strip of venison jerky.
There's no words for you.
That's my breakfast. Okay, are you sure I sound okay?
Yeah.
I'm doing it the way I've been doing it, so I should be fine. Okay. Because this episode better be...
Leave all that in.
Hello.
Let's intro. Oh! I was going to say let's intro, and then you did it. Okay, go. I'll shut up.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to Nessie's Dead. We are your hosts, Spencer and Helen.
Hello.
Hello, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Even though it's been Halloween since July.
And now Halloween closes. It's coming to an end this week when this episode comes out. But with that, we are going to be doing our Halloween episode. And
you paused like you were waiting for a round of applause.
I have been trying to figure out what I wanted to cover for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going back and forth with all these different ideas. And I knew I wanted something that was very whimsical and kind of summed up the overall feeling of Halloween.
Okay.
I think I landed on the perfect content for tonight.
Is it haunted?
No.
Oh.
But yes. But we're not covering a haunting.
Oh. Are we covering murder?
There is murder.
Okay.
We will talk about some murder. I think we do every episode.
Yeah, I think that slides in there somehow.
Yeah. But it is a compilation. Of course. This is like a quintessential Spencer episode. It is very much the kind of content I like to cover. It's also something that I have recently developed a little bit of a hyperfixation on. And I wanted to take this interest. It's something I've always been interested in.
Spectrophilia.
I don't think there's any of that. Well, in theory, actually, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's no ghost sex, but there is what is considered spectrophilia to some people. There is a hint of that, yes.
Oh, okay. So we have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and this is something, the content is something I've always been interested in, but lately I've been kind of doing this deep dive into it.
Okay.
Now, when I first got the idea to do this episode, I actually wanted to focus one direction with it. To cover properly, I needed to go into the background and the context of this particular thing, which really then creates the whole episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, for Halloween, we are going to cover gothic horror.
Ooh.
But real life examples of it.
I'm excited to see what your take is on that.
This is going in a million different directions. We have a lot to cover. Originally, when I came up with this, I wanted to focus on the universal monsters.
Oh.
And I wanted to talk about real life examples of the universal monsters. And I got that idea because I thought, okay, what are some classic Halloween costumes that are still popular to this day? Mm-hmm. And I was like, the classic monsters, like, Wolfman and Creature from the Black Lagoon and Frankenstein, these universal monsters. But the universal monsters, most all of them come from Gothic literature.
Mm-hmm.
So really the emphasis is going to be on the Gothic horror novels. and then the real life examples and cases from it.
Oh, I'm excited. This is fun. This is very Halloween.
It is. So with that, let's go ahead and take the plunge.
Let's plunge.
So first, we have to go into the background of what Gothic horror is. And do you know what exactly Gothic horror means?
No, enlighten me. Did you expect me to know that? Like, I get a vision of black and white movies or like old books, like Frankenstein, stuff like that, where it's got that.
But you don't know
Nosferatu like feel to it.
Yeah, Nosferatu would be a Gothic film, but not of Gothic literature because it was a rip off of Dracula. Actually,
yeah, it was. She tried to sue them for a long time.
Yeah. So officially, Gothic horror is a literary aesthetic centered in, obviously, horror, but it's rooted in themes, like very human kind of themes. Mortality, ethics, passion, grief, religion, morality, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all through a spooky lens. But there is this like romancing of the macabre.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that makes Gothic horror would be the setting. A lot of the times you're going to find a Gothic castle or some kind of scary Victorian mansion, an abandoned church, graveyards, cemeteries, spooky forests. And I think pretty much every Gothic horror, either most of the story occurs throughout a storm or something big happens on the night of a storm, be it some kind of monster or a curse or something. There's always something supernatural, and that supernatural thing typically represents something very natural and very human, like a fear, kind of like I mentioned, something with mortality or ethics and whatnot. Now, the first official Gothic horror novel was Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto in 1764. This is set in the medieval era. It's in a castle. There's a ghost and I think a curse. And there's this kind of romancing of, I think, this like brutality. I don't know. I've never read it. But that is the first Gothic horror officially. Now, the term Gothic is in reference to the Renaissance and medieval era with the Gothic architecture, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that came about because at this time frame, late 1700s and into like the early 1900s, like to 1910, they originally were looking back at medieval and Renaissance as like barbaric. They referred to this time period, but in like a derogatory sense. So initially, Gothic was kind of derogatory towards medieval and Renaissance.
Interesting.
They were also looking at how these medieval castles, this Gothic architecture is now abandoned and it's decaying, but they found interest and beauty in its own decay, which brings in the element of romancing the macabre yet again.
Yeah.
Also during this period, we saw a lot of scientific advancements and just cities really taking off in a new way. So people were starting to look back at the past with kinder eyes because they were like, oh, things were much simpler back then. So all of that comes together to give us the term Gothic. So some examples of Gothic horror would be Bram Stoker's Dracula, Robert Louis Stevens' Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man, and pretty much anything by Edgar Allan Poe. But first, we're going to get into some more of those, of course. But first, we are going to talk about what is perhaps the most famous of all the Gothic horror novels, and that is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Which the new Frankenstein's about to come out, and I am so excited to see that.
I hope it's good.
If not, I'll drown myself.
Me too. It's fine. We'll just go out together.
So Frankenstein, like I said, was written by Mary Shelley. It was published in 1818, and her friends, a bunch of other writers, they all got together in this, I forgot the official term, but it was like the Summer of Darkness, I believe. and the skies were all dark, and it just really added to like a depressing and spooky kind of vibe.
My
But
favorite weather.
I don't want that in the summer, though.
I do.
Well, they wanted to see who could write the scariest story,
Mm-hmm.
and they all got together and wrote their scary stories. And I don't know if Mary Shelley won with Frankenstein, but she definitely won in the long run because it's become what it's become today.
That would be crazy if she lost.
Yeah, they're like, the story sucks, Mary.
Yeah, do better.
But the story of Frankenstein centers around the ideas of life, death, and science. And obviously, we all know, but it's about a man named Victor Frankenstein who develops an infatuation with creating life, and he does so by creating an unnamed monster out of human remains. So he uses science by way of electricity to spark life into this lifeless, essentially man-made corpse made of natural corpse pieces. This novel centers around themes of obviously mortality and the idea of cheating death, but it also hovers around this fear that people really had at the time around science. And they were afraid that science was going too far. And kind of like we're experiencing it right now in our society with fears around AI and pollution, the disadvantages of social media and cell phones and whatnot. It's interesting because we are also seeing a rise in gothic horror right now. Like Nosferatu came out this past winter. That was huge.
Yeah.
That actually sparked a huge fashion trend, and now we're seeing gothic fashion and just in general goth culture reemerging. And
this
then
is true.
The new Frankenstein movie comes out this fall. They're starting work on a dark or like a really spooky version of, I think, A Christmas Carol, and it's starring Johnny Depp, and it comes out next year, and I'm so excited for that.
He's doing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Was that happening too?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. Also, look at what Gaga's doing right now with Mayhem. Everything is gothic influenced. Even the tour, the Mayhem Ball, is Phantom of the Opera themed. So I think we are in our own little gothic revival because of similar experiences that we are having right now.
I mean, it makes sense.
Now, alongside fears of advancing science and the idea that it's kind of playing God, the novel also explores ideas of morality and humanity, with Victor Frankenstein, along with the townspeople, fearing the monster, who the monster was not evil, but because they didn't understand him, they assumed he was evil and needed to be destroyed. So that is another major theme, and a part of me wonders, because they believe Mary Shelley was actually a lesbian, so I wonder if she's maybe referring to people's fears around that, assuming that it was bad because they didn't understand it. So Frankenstein has gone on to be perhaps the biggest gothic horror novel of all time, giving way to creature features and sci-fi horror. In 1931, Universal Pictures released their adaptation of Frankenstein, leading to a total of 8 films by Universal alone for Frankenstein. It's even considered, quote, the most famous, influential, and important of all horror series. So
I would say so. I don't know.
There's one more that
Dracula.
Yeah.
Bela
They're like neck and neck to me.
Yeah, I'm more of a Bela Lugosi person.
See, I'm more into vampires than I would be like a zombie concept, but I like this. I think I'm more into Frankenstein than I am Dracula.
I don't know.
But like
overall.
otherwise, I'm more vampire.
I don't know. That's hard.
Well, we'll get into who's best at the end, but
okay.
Obviously, plenty of other films and books and pop culture whatnots have come from Frankenstein, including one of my favorite movies of all time, the 1974 film Young Frankenstein. But this whole idea of resurrection by way of electricity and cheating death not only comes from the Frankenstein horror novel, but it was a very real thing people were doing at the time.
Yeah, we've talked about this where they tried to reanimate corpses.
We kind of talked about it a tiny bit just with last week's episode, the killer's body being donated to science. And then we talked about it in the Red Barn murder. They attempted a resurrection on that killer's body. But now let's get into a few more cases of that.
Ooh.
So that's actually, this was huge. I read so many different resurrection attempts and scientists that were working on it, and it was so much. So I had to really just pick and choose the most interesting ones.
And we
so here we
still couldn't
go.
make it happen?
I'll let you be the judge of that.
Oh, okay.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So right around the time that Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, the study of anatomy was really taking off, like we mentioned in our previous episode with the Arthur seat coffins. But there was a lot of focus on the material world and trying to understand things with less of an emphasis on religion and spirituality than ever before, which is a part of why it did terrify a lot of people, because it was such a change and so different from what they were used to.
Yeah.
So in 1774, the Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned was founded. This was an organization which gave rewards to people who could revive and resurrect drowning victims, and it's actually still around today.
You get a reward?
I don't think they still do that, but I don't exactly know what they do to this day, but their motto is still in reference to, like, you can never be sure someone's actually dead.
Oh, because they could just be like unconscious for a moment, filled with water.
Apparently, that was a huge problem for people at this time. So premature burial, or being buried alive, became a huge fear for people.
I'm terrified of that.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not, because I don't feel like it would ever happen to me.
I don't know. It sounds scary. I want to be cremated. I don't want to know.
Well, yeah, a lot of people at this time were like, rip my heart out to make sure I'm actually dead.
I would too.
Now, alongside this fear of premature burial, I think there was also this fear that, like, because, now we're getting into this more like sciencey realm, and people are like, oh, well, if my religion doesn't exist, what happens when I die? And I think that definitely plays a role in Galvanism. Not necessarily that it's inspired by a fear of death, but just understanding it. But Galvanism is the generation of an electrical current in biological organisms. And the term comes from scientist Luigi Galvani, who did experiments involving sending electrical shocks into dead frog legs, causing them to move. He also does this on other animals, I believe, but I think he's most known for doing frog legs.
I think they did something with a dog or something at one point.
Not him.
Him? Okay.
But we will talk. That one's more recent, actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
This was in like the late 1700s.
Oh, okay.
From there, his nephew, Giovanni Aldini, continues his work, doing the same practice on severed sheep and cow heads.
Ugh.
And he was actually able to get their eyes and mouth to open and move.
Jeez, that's so creepy.
Then Aldini also attempted to bring a dead man back to life. Now, at this time, in Great Britain, in 1752, the Murder Act was passed. And this states that murderers would be executed, and then after their death, their bodies are donated to science and experimented on, which we also just talked about.
Yeah.
With that, Aldini made attempts to resurrect a recently executed man named George Foster. George Foster was executed in 1803, and Aldini performed his electrical resurrection attempt in front of an audience, most likely in a lecture hall for students. The corpse did not reanimate, but he did get the body to move. The corpse's jaw quivered and contorted into a slight smile, and one eye opened.
I don't like it.
I think the fact that it's like a smile is what makes it super gross. And then one eye.
Oh.
Now, from there, in 1818, Mary Shelley puts out Frankenstein. And some people believe that this novel actually was an inspiration in the scientific community to continue these practices. I don't know if it really played that much of a role. Maybe it did.
Maybe.
But in Glasgow, also in 1818, Dr. Urey attempted to resurrect a recently executed Matthew Clydesdale. And according to Dr. Urey's reports, it was, quote, truly wonderful. He also said that the corpse began to breathe and then stated, Yeah, he said, quote, "The most horrible grimaces were exhibited."
Like facial expressions? I wonder if it was like super painful.
Well, the body, I don't think the corpse felt that.
I don't know. What if they did bring him back for a second?
Well, according to Dr. Yuri, they did. The corpse apparently came back to life in full. His eyes opened, his tongue sticks out, and then he stands up, completely upright. Everyone in the lecture hall, it was kind of split 50-50. A lot of them fainted and ran out and screamed. And the other half stood up and applauded because this was such a breakthrough, right? Now, Dr. Yuri states that it was so scary he had to stab his freshly resurrected zombie.
No.
Again.
You're brought back to life and then you're just stabbed.
Circle of life, baby.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
Now, this resurrection was not officially documented by anyone other than Dr. Yuri himself, bringing a man named Dr. Cumming to question the legitimacy of Dr. Yuri's experiment. A year later, in 1819, Dr. Cumming does the exact same experiment with a corpse that Dr. Yuri just performed. All he got the body to do was shiver. Like one shape.
What if it was fake and they killed that guy? All for science.
I don't think it really happened because Dr. Yuri never did it again.
Oh, you would think if you had such a breakthrough, you would continue to practice it.
Yeah. And none of the students ever said anything about it actually happening.
That would have been all over.
Yeah, and Dr. Cumming did this little experiment to recreate it to prove that Dr. Yuri never did it. Or never resurrected anything. But next we have a Russian scientist named Alexei Kulyabko. So he actually was able to restart animal hearts that had been freshly removed from the bodies in 1902.
Wow, that seems advanced for 1902 for some reason.
I agree. Yeah, turning a heart on.
Yeah.
But only a year later, in 1903, he did this to a human's heart. A baby had died of natural causes, and they took the heart out and were able to restart it. Obviously, nothing can happen because it's not in a body, but he did restart a vital organ.
Why couldn't they have just done it while it was in the body?
Well, that's the next thing he does. So he finally figures that out and was able to get an intact heart beating inside of a fresh corpse for a solid 20 minutes.
And what happened to the corpse?
Apparently, it wheezed out like a big, scary, weird breath, and it terrified him so much that he stopped the experiment and pulled the plug.
Oh my gosh.
Now I have one more, and that is
I'm like queasy.
It's another. This is
okay.
This is the fun one.
This is the fun one.
It's another Russian scientist.
Always.
His name is Sergei Brukhanenko. He developed the autojector device. This is a device that would...
I'm like,
This device would circulate blood and would temporarily aid in the help with hearts and lungs.
Oh, I hate
and
this.
in the 1930s, he actually used this machine to keep a severed dog head alive.
Oh.
The head was connected by veins and arteries, and it was actually able to blink, licked its nose, and flinched its ears when they made a loud sound. And this actually there's a documentary about it that came out, I think, in the 1940s.
This makes me so woozy.
This?
You know I don't like things with blood. Like, this makes me woozy.
We're not talking... Oh, we talked the blood device.
Yeah.
The autojector.
Hate it.
So, that's all I have on Frankenstein. But next, I want to cover a not as famous monster, and that is the Invisible Man.
Ooh, the new one was good. The new movie that just came out. Well, didn't just come out. That was probably like 10 years ago now. Jeez.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the original either.
Good. Oh, I like the remake. It was really good.
I actually didn't know that The Invisible Man was a gothic horror novel. I thought it was originally Universal Monsters, but it actually is gothic horror.
Wow.
So it was written by H.G. Wells and published in 1897. The story follows another scientist. His name is Griffin. He devotes his time to researching optics, developing a chemical that makes things invisible, and he ends up making himself invisible and cannot turn back to visible.
That's terrifying.
With this invisibility, it ends up leading him to madness and then homicide. So much like Frankenstein, the Invisible Man plays with the idea of science perhaps going too far, playing God kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And it also plays with the idea of being an outsider and the fears of isolation because he's invisible. No one sees him. And it's like, what's it like to not fit into mainstream society? So we see that concept come in again.
Mm-hmm.
But then it also goes into morality and ethics because if you were invisible and you know you can't get caught, how far would you go? Like, you know?
Yeah. Everyone's like, watch out for that one.
So the Invisible Man goes on to join Frankenstein's monster as a universal monster. It gets its own film in 1933. It doesn't take off quite the same way that Frankenstein did, but it obviously has been quite an influential piece of horror.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a classic gothic horror novel. But what about some real-life invisibility attempts?
They're still trying to do this, though.
They figured it out.
I know, I saw. But it's like a sheet thing. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I feel like you can still kind of tell. Unless it's gotten better.
I think in the past year that it has advanced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't have a ton on that, but we do have a conspiracy theory to get into now.
Oh.
We're literally going into all of it. Everything that we cover on Nessie's Dead is happening tonight.
Good.
So we are going to talk about... Now, some people might argue that this is not invisibility and that it's time travel. However, it is based in an invisibility experiment that perhaps goes wrong and or involves time travel. And that is the Philadelphia experiment.
I think I know this one. Continue.
I think we've talked about, not on the show, but I think you and I have chatted about it. So in October of 1943, during the week of Halloween, it's kind of debated on when this actually happened, but it's believed to have happened on October 28th. But we do know that it would have been, if it really happened, it would have been the week of Halloween. How fitting.
Very.
So during that week of October in 1943, a merchant mariner named Carl M. Allen claims to have witnessed a ship, a military ship called the USS Eldridge, disappear. The USS Eldridge, according to insiders, witnesses, and sailors on board the ship, it actually had these generators that put out some kind of magnetic field, which would make the ship invisible to enemy radar.
Oh.
I don't think that's too far of a stretch to say they're doing that or working on that.
No, I don't either.
And in the 40s, they were doing a lot of very interesting government experiments. Look, project.
I love how you worded that. Very interesting.
Like MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might have been 50s, but it is around the same time frame. But they were testing this invisibility experiment in Philadelphia, apparently. Witnesses claim to have seen a green fog appear and then cover the ship. The fog clears, and then the ship is gone. The ship was also missing from radars, so it totally disappears. And then it randomly reappears over 200 miles away along the shores of Virginia.
Just bloop?
Yes. However, when it reappears in Virginia, it was actually 20 minutes earlier in the day that it was said to have arrived in Virginia. And then it disappears from there and reappears in Philadelphia, making it 10 minutes later, but earlier. And there's this whole weird time difference. So not time difference, not time zones, but it disappears at this one time, say 10:20 in Philadelphia, but then it reappears at 10 a.m.
Oh, it traveled back in time.
It went 20 minutes back in time.
Okay.
And then when it reappeared back in Philadelphia, it was 10 minutes earlier, I think. I don't know, that part trips me up.
It's weird.
So when it reappears in Philadelphia, whatever time it actually happened, the sailors were all disoriented. They had burns on their skin, and some of them were actually just totally missing. They just vanished and never reappeared. And then some of them were actually on the molecular level fused into the ship.
Yeah, and I remember this part of it. This is the part I like.
Yeah. The ones that were fused into the ship were dead because obviously,
I don't know if you could survive that.
But 4 years after this incident, the whole crew was dead. So that's interesting. And it is said that they were all driven to madness after this incident, the surviving ones. But news reports, of course, run with this story because it's crazy. They're like, oh my God, a military ship just went invisible and did some weird time traveling situation. And then the sailors died. It was being talked about. It's this crazy story. However, the ship was actually never in Philadelphia in October of 1943 or Virginia. It was not in either of those ports.
Where was she?
Officially, according to the ship's logs, it was in New York that day.
Oh.
So it seems like it's very obviously fake, right?
Oh, but I love that story. Continue.
Well. In the 1940s, the U.S. government / military really was doing invisibility experiments, but it wasn't so extreme. They were using these electrical cables to keep ships from being detected by underwater foreign threats. Oh. And this was being done in Philadelphia in 1943. That adds a little bit of credibility to it right there, right?
It does.
Well. Now we have a scientist named Morris Jessup. He wrote about UFOs, and he put a book out, and this was, I think, a little bit before the big UFO craze really kicks off, I think. But he puts out this book about UFOs. People who are also seeing UFOs and have had their own experiences, they're sending letters to this man, to Jessup, talking about their experiences. Well, one letter comes from a man named Carl Allende. It turns out Carl Allende is not his real name, but we're just going to continue calling him Carl Allende because that's what he writes in as.
Okay.
But he writes Morris Jessup these letters detailing having seen the USS Eldridge disappear, and then talked about invisibility experiments that were happening in the area. He even talked about how the government figured out how to do these invisibility experiments using Einstein's unified field theory. It is documented that this man, quote, Carl Allende, was really there in Philadelphia this week of October 1943. However, it turns out that that's not his real name, and some of the letters he's kind of like writing about weird things. So Morris Jessup doesn't really think much of it at all and just kind of tosses the letter aside, thinking, okay, he's probably just crazy. This didn't really happen, right?
Maybe, yeah.
So he keeps the letters, though. All of a sudden, he gets a knock on the door. It just so happens to be 2 officers from the Office of Naval Research. This is
it's true when the officers show up every single time. Or the men in black. Okay.
It gets weirder.
Oh, it always does when they show up.
So the Office of Naval Research deals with science and special projects. So that right there says plenty.
Yeah, of course they do.
And they ask him about these letters from Mr. Allende. He shows them and they confiscate it and leave. So from there, Jessup becomes infatuated with the Philadelphia experiment and the USS Eldridge.
As one should.
He ends up doing like deep dives into the research because he's like, okay, there's something in those papers that was true. He ends up passing his research along to a colleague of his because he said, I want to pass this to you. You need to protect it in case something happens to me.
And it did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it always does.
So April 19th, 1959, Jessup calls a friend of his to tell him that he made a breakthrough in the Philadelphia experiment research. And he was like, hey, we need to meet up. Can you meet up tomorrow, April 20th? And I'll tell you all about what I discovered. And he's like, yeah, sure. Well, April 20th, Jessup never shows up to their meeting. He, quote, killed himself.
That's how they always do it, though.
Yeah. You want to know how he killed himself.
How did he mysteriously kill himself?
So on April 20th, the day that he was going to meet up with his friend that he initiated the hangout with to talk about the Philadelphia experiment, the breakthrough he made in the research, on April 20th, he was found dead in his car, and he died of carbon monoxide poisoning, and a hose had been lodged into the gas pipe pumping the car full of this toxic gas, and rags had been pushed into the doors so none of it would seep out.
How would he be able to put the rags in the door and then get in the car?
Yeah, I don't know. Also, there was no autopsy ever performed.
Of course not. Cremate him instantly. Get rid of it. Done.
So I didn't believe in the Philadelphia experiment because it sounds so incredibly far-fetched.
I always kind of have, though. Like, I like this one.
I think something did happen. And when you look at it, and they're like, well, the ship was never even in Philadelphia that week. They could have changed the log.
Yeah, that's an easy change.
That's an easy fix. They could have easily just been like, Carl Yande's crazy. According to officials, Jessup, the guy who, quote, killed himself, he had been struggling with depression because his newest book didn't do very well, and he was having a really hard time with it.
Oh, well.
So they really pushed that narrative.
He had important news. I feel like he would have done it after.
Yeah, not when he's like, hey, let's meet up tomorrow. And then he's like,
yeah,
I'll show him. I'll kill myself. Like, that's crazy.
Show him. I'm never going to be there. Yeah, I don't buy that. I think there's something more to that for sure.
I do. For sure. I don't know. So originally it's like an invisibility experiment that perhaps goes wrong.
And they time traveled.
Yeah, or maybe they were attempting time travel, and the time travel you have to like do something with invisibility because I don't know, or maybe they were trying to do both at the same time. And maybe they were like, hey, oh, I got it. I solved it. Okay, so
you did?
Maybe they want to be invisible while they time travel?
Yeah, so that it doesn't interrupt time. Because what if they went back and then people are seeing this big ship and they're like, what the hell?
Just to clarify, you're hearing it here on Nessie's Dead. Neither of us are suicidal.
No, we are not.
We have no intention of disappearing.
Never, ever. I will live forever.
Now, we did mention the invisibility cloaks, and there are real invisibility cloaks. Like, regardless of what you believe with the Philadelphia experiment conspiracy theory, there are real invisibility things happening in science right now. And the material that they use for the invisibility cloak, actually, it's a process called self-adaptive photochromism. This is where molecules rearrange, and after they're exposed to certain light wavelengths and they become like invisible, I guess. It goes way over my head. But whatever it is they're doing is done to mimic what chameleons can do.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds very difficult to do. Like, how do you even start with something like that?
Well, and I will say, here's my thing with the Philadelphia experiment. If right now science is only being able to figure out how to mimic a chameleon with a piece of fabric, how were they making an entire ship and crew go invisible and time travel and come back?
I don't know. Different, like, processes? Different experimental tools?
But why aren't we using it now in warfare?
Maybe we are, and we don't know.
Because we can't see it.
Yeah. See, there we go. I wouldn't put it past any of that we're not using something now. Because why would we say anything? Because then our enemies would start trying to look into trying to do that. And then we would.
Well, that's all I have on the Invisible Man. So I have one more gothic horror to get into.
It's got to be Dracula.
It is Dracula.
Okay, good. I was like, if you skip over Dracula, I'm going to be like... I wasn't
going to do Dracula.
Oh, no, sir.
He is the king of gothic horror.
No, I'm like, if you skip that, like, what do we even have here?
Well, I didn't want to because I still want to do a deep dive on vampire lore.
You still
And I was like, I'll talk about Dracula and its origins and what it represents and whatnot in the vampire episode. But I actually am glad I'm doing Dracula in this one because now I kind of got it out of the way. And I can focus on other things in history
for the vampire story?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot. It goes so deep.
I didn't realize how much. It was going to be this episode. And I was like, I don't have it in me to do this kind of research right now. So with that, let's get into Dracula.
Oh, let's go.
So to properly cover Dracula, we first have to address the inspirations. Because Dracula is not the first vampire story, and it's not the first vampire in Gothic horror. First, we actually have the vampire, spelt Vampyre. That was written by Mary Shelley's friend, actually, John William Polidori, and he published that in 1819. He was friends with her. He was in this writers group, and he was in the same group that was working on writing the scariest story that summer.
Did he win?
I don't know.
I need to know who won that. But now that there's two of them involved.
And there was another one involved, but I don't know what she wrote. I should have looked into that, but whatever.
Whatever. We'll never know.
But The Vampire was written or published in 1819. This is considered, like I said, the first vampire in Gothic horror. However, specifically, it is the first of the romantic vampire stories. Because throughout history, we have seen this trope of vampires being very romantic and very sexy. Originally, vampire lore was not like that.
No, it wasn't.
It was like a Nosferatu, not a Dracula.
No.
And the sexy, well-to-do vampire comes from this novel, The Vampire. So the story of The Vampire centers around a man named Aubrey, who befriends a wealthy man named Lord Ruthven. Lord Ruthven is a vampire, and he's a very fancy high society man / vampire who ends up pursuing Aubrey's sister, and Aubrey is unable to tell her until it's too late.
Oh.
So you see a little bit of the similarity between the vampire and Dracula.
Yeah.
Now, even more so is the 1872 Gothic novel, The Lesbian Vampire Story,
in
Carmilla.
1870. Oh, you know what's funny? They did like an HBO version of that movie when I was a little girl, and I used to love Camilla. And I try to find it to this day, and I can never find that version of that movie that I saw.
Oh.
But it was good. Yeah, probably shouldn't have been watching it when I was a child, but
Yeah, I imagine on HBO.
Yeah, it was on HBO.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Carmilla is about a woman named Laura, a human woman, and she's being pursued by a vampire named Carmilla. There are a lot, even more similarities between Dracula and Carmilla.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Dracula's not a gay story. Carmilla is.
I think she pursues a lot of people in that, though.
But isn't
maybe just the HBO version?
Isn't her main fixation?
Yeah,
the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This seems to have paved the way for Dracula. I mean, obviously, the vampire concept is very popular within Gothic horror. In Gothic horror, the vampire was symbolic of lust. It really brings in this idea of religion and specifically with Christianity, that lust was this demon that was going to destroy you, like the vampire,
Mm-hmm.
There's also this kind of sexual quality, which we'll get into this when I cover the deep dive of vampires. So in Gothic horror, the vampire is symbolic of lust and perversion, specifically through this lens of Christianity and this idea that lust is this demon that will destroy you and drain you of your life force. And the only way to stop it is to find salvation in the Lord. That's why a vampire, they're warded off by the cross and holy water and sunlight. So that was kind of the main I think fear that comes up with vampires in Gothic horror.
Mm-hmm.
But Dracula also has that sex appeal and and hypnotism, and not that he's sexy or I don't there is this sexual undertone to the idea of a vampire.
Yeah, definitely. Especially over time it's become
and a lot of that is because of the success of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dracula was released in 1897, and obviously everyone knows the story, but he's pursuing this woman. Actually, also, fun fact, Dracula is the first vampire to turn into a bat.
Oh, fun facts.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So at the time, when it first came out, Dracula was not very popular. I don't think it ever really reached a whole lot of success while Bram Stoker was actually alive.
That's sad.
Yeah, it is. And it's sad he never saw what it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1922, it was very clearly plagiarized with a silent film called Nosferatu, like we talked about. This ends up leading to Stoker's wife, or widow, his widow, suing the studio. She then established a copyright for the stage production of Dracula. The stage production had Bela Lugosi. And he was like people were just in awe of his performance as Dracula. So much
could you not?
Right, yeah. So when Universal decides to put out their Dracula in 1931, they also had Bela Lugosi star in it. From there, Dracula gets sequels and spin-offs, much like Frankenstein. He really becomes a pillar in pop culture. But what about the real-life Dracula? I was going back and forth for the real Dracula case if I wanted to talk about something not so obvious, like Vlad the Impaler, who was, the highly, highly agreed upon inspiration for Dracula.
Yeah. My mom went to that castle when she was a teenager.
Oh, I want to go so bad.
I know.
I want to go so bad.
I have lots of old-timey pictures of it that she took.
I love that.
From like the 70s or something.
So I decided we are going to talk about Vlad the Impaler.
Yay!
Because all the other real-life vampire cases I'm going to save for a different episode. But
okay.
Vlad the Impaler, also known as Vlad the Third, and I'm going to refer to him as Vlad the Third in the first little bit of discussing him, because we're also going to talk about his father, Vlad the Second. But he had such brutal murder tactics against his enemies, alongside with rumors of him potentially drinking blood, which I don't think that was true, but
you never know.
You never know. But there was so much brutality caused by him that it led some 15th century people to believe he was not human at all and a very real monster.
I can see that.
The name Dracula, obviously his name's Vlad. So it's like, how does that turn into Dracula? And it doesn't. But the reason that Dracula becomes the name and gets involved in whatnot is because Vlad's father, Vlad II, was part of a Catholic crusading order of knights called the Order of the Dragon. The whole thing with this Order of Knights was they wanted to destroy the Ottoman Empire. Dragon, in Old Romanian, is Dracul. And in modern-day Romanian, it actually translates to devil, but I think devil and dragon perhaps in translation could have been used the same way, because in a lot of history, dragons are seen as evil and it's connected to the devil sometimes, and maybe it was the beast and the devil's the beast, but Dracul, it was the order of Dracul. So Order of the Dragon and now Order of the Devil. And that's where we get the name Dracula.
Dracula.
Because not only
I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun fact.
Fun fact again.
And not only was Vlad II referred to as Vlad Dracul, but Vlad III was, in an honorary sense, because if the name was passed down.
Oh, gotcha. So he was a Dracula.
Yeah, a Dracul.
Same thing.
Now, there's a lot of history to get into with Vlad the Impaler, so I'm not going into all of it because it goes into things that are confusing to me personally. I'm going to focus more on the vampire references and not the overall historical context. So just a little disclaimer there.
Okay.
But Vlad III was born in 1431 in Wallachia, which is now part of modern-day Romania. He actually grew up as a royal hostage alongside his brother Radu. They were held hostage by the Ottoman Empire to ensure their father, Vlad II, remained loyal to the empire. And that because he was a part of that order of the Dracul, trying to take down the Ottoman Empire, so they kidnap his kids.
Oh.
Now, their cousin ends up taking the Wallachian throne, leading to the father's death. So now Vlad II is dead. This leads Vlad III to being set free, because the only reason he was hostage was because of his father. Once he's freed, he is out for blood to claim the throne and avenge his father's death, because his cousin who has the throne was responsible for the death.
As one does.
So he does end up killing his cousin, and he does end up taking over the throne. He is exiled and then comes back, and is exiled and comes back. Between 1448 and 1476, he is on and off the ruler of Wallachia. But now let's get into a little bit of the brutality that allegedly inspired Dracula.
Is it going to make me woozy?
No.
Maybe? Okay.
For starters, he would poison water supplies along with crops of his enemies. I think that was probably pretty common back then.
Yeah, I would think so.
He also paid diseased men to seek out and infect the enemy, which is literally genius.
Terrifying.
He also hosted a large feast inviting enemies, and they all sat down to eat. And during it, he actually stabbed or had all of them stabbed, but not to death. So after they're stabbed and they're struggling, finished it off by killing them by impaling them on large wooden spikes.
I knew that part was coming. Ugh.
And that's where we get the term Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That it gets worse.
Oh, God.
So not only does he become known for impaling his victims, he also beheads, skins, disembowels, blinds, strangles, and boils enemies alive.
All the medieval torture devices. He owns them all. He invented them, probably.
Yeah. So his favorite method was obviously the impalement, hence the name. So much so that there are accounts that during a battle, he was responsible for creating a, quote, forest of spikes, with each spike having a dying victim on it, with like 2,000 of them.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah, so he led that mass killing. It's also said that in that very forest of spikes, he dined.
I believe it.
He set up and had a dinner amongst his victims.
Ugh.
Now, he didn't just impale his enemies, though. It wasn't just like, oh, stick you on a wooden spike and go about my day. That's simple for Vlad. He actually impaled them through the anus.
Yeah, that's right.
Or something, or just in that area in general. I think predominantly the anus. But they wouldn't die.
Like, yeah, they're just like up there.
Yeah, suffering and dying, and that does kill them eventually, but it would slowly go up through their body and into their throats.
So he's just eating. You can probably, like, there's people like wailing and thrashing around above him.
Some accounts say that it would take days for these people to die. He also at one point met with a handful of Ottoman ambassadors. They were wearing turbans, so he decided to nail the turbans to their heads. In total, he's estimated to have been responsible for somewhere between 40,000 to 100,000 deaths.
My gosh, I didn't realize it was that much.
So this is all estimated right here, but 20,000 impaled Turkish soldiers outside his home, 30,000 impaled merchants from Brasov in 1459, and 10,000 impaled in 1460.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So he did orchestrate these killings and have like soldiers do it, but he also did it himself as well, personally.
I was going to say he'd have to have some help. That seems excessive for one man.
Unless you're a vampire.
I mean, you could do that then.
So he was assassinated in 1476 in battle. He and his soldiers were ambushed and killed by the Ottomans. The body was allegedly cut into pieces and paraded into town and then put on display.
I'd love to put things on display back then.
I know, we keep talking about bodies on display.
We do.
So, fun fact, he's actually considered a national hero to many people in modern-day Romania.
How?
For his willingness to fight for his land.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he did.
There are accounts that he's not considered evil. Also, fun fact, chemical analysis from some of Vlad's handwritten letters show that he might have had a medical condition called hemolacria. I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it, but it's a medical condition. It causes someone to produce tears composed of blood.
Oh, how do they know this? Again?
I read the article. It was like a really sciencey thing.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know, but they figured it out.
Okay.
Through some kind of samples with his DNA and what they believed were his tears, and because I guess it was a mixture of what would be tears, but it had blood in it. And
I believe it.
This is a very real medical condition, and this could have added to why people thought he was some kind of monster.
Oh, could have, if he's crying blood over there.
Bram Stoker never officially said that this was the inspiration to Dracula, but most historians do believe it was, especially considering Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Dracula takes place in Romania, specifically Transylvania, which would be the area that back in the day, I think was Wallachia, which was what he ruled over. So it does make sense.
I think it does.
It sort of seems like he takes these ideas of Carmilla, makes it not lesbian,
and
then like adds this influence of Vlad the Impaler.
Makes sense. I mean, where else are you going to get such a crazy story?
With that is all I have on real life accounts. Oh no, it's not actually, because you know what? These are just little side notes. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
That was inspired by a real experience as well.
It was? Who?
I don't know who, but this man, the author, read this news article about this man who was like a posh, like well-to-do man. He was like an
aristocrat.
Yeah, and he had this double life as a burglar.
Oh.
So he had this idea of this, these two polar opposites existing in the same person.
Body, yeah.
And he thought of a gothic horror for it. And there it is.
There it is.
Of course, the Wolfman. I really wanted to cover the Wolfman, but I was like, Spencer, you've done a hell of a lot of werewolves here on this.
Yeah, you keep doing some werewolves, sheep wolves, all the wolves.
So I was like, I've covered plenty of werewolf accounts, so I don't think everyone's going to want that again. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a werewolves part 2.
Oh, no.
I don't even know how I would.
I think we did enough werewolves in part 1.
I really wanted to do Creature from the Black Lagoon, but he is not gothic horror, so he would have been in my Universal Monsters episode.
Oh.
But I was also like, what do I got? Just watery cryptids?
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah,
there's
but he's
plenty.
Not gothic horror.
Is that it? Did you cover everybody?
That's everybody. That's the world of gothic horror.
I love it. That was so fun and different. I learned so many new things.
I went back and forth for 2 weeks trying to figure out how to do this episode.
Nailed it.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are. Well, now you always keep setting the bar too high for me, and I just can't.
You just keep taking it back to the national forests.
Guess where? We're going back next week. No, I'm just kidding. I have to get out of that forest. I have to.
Maybe you can do like a national park in the desert.
Every time I come across something, I'm like, oh, never mind, national forest. It just is what it is.
Well, your episode's the first week of November, so if there's something like November-y.
Yeah, that's cryptid season.
That is. And you just did cryptid.
Kinda. Should have saved that in my back pocket. Well, I'll figure it out. But with that, I guess we'll say...
Good night.
And pleasant nightmares.
And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Bye.
Bye.